Hello and welcome to another episode of Accent. The current state of global affairs are complex and at times chaotic. Often we are misled and misinformed about history, confusing facts with fiction. So it seems very timely and necessary to have some people who have a passion about history, about knowledge, and informing us. And for that matter, today I have such a person, very talented young lady, Renee Hakim here, to talk about her latest work, a book called Xerxes, which in Farsi we call Khashayar. It relates to a Persian king, a story of the most feared and revered king, Xerxes, which in this book she reveals a past which is about the king and the time that he lived, which is so shockingly parallel with the present time and what's happening now. Well, it may change the way some of us view things, hopefully. Let's talk about Renee. Renee, which she likes to call herself Ren as her pen name, I suppose. She will explain later to you. Ren Hakim made her world debut in 1979. Her interest in ancient history, inspired by her Iraqi ancestry, is deep and abiding, as is her love for writing and performance. After attending a broadcast art school, where she was named most entertaining air personality by her graduating class, Ren went to work in radio. She also studied acting for several years, and also she has played many featured roles, including two of the literature's most well-known stories and storytellers, which is one Peter Pan's Wendy and the other one Shahrazad and 1000 Arabian Nights, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with that. Okay, having said all that, I would like to stop here and let's Ren talk to you for the rest of the half an hour that we have with her. Welcome, Renee.
Oh, thank you so much, Zoe.
It's so nice to have you.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you. I know that you're coming all the way from Florida.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, this is my first time in Washington. It's beautiful.
Well, this is really a gift to us that you made it all 12 hours or so.
Yeah, but it was well worth it, and the invitation, again, thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Well, in your introduction, I read that your graduating class called you the most entertaining air personality. Tell us about that, and tell us about that class and what you were doing.
You know, it was a great broadcast art school, and they get you prepared whether you want to go into the TV industry or the radio industry, and I opted in for radio. But you learn everything from behind the camera, behind the music board, how to write copy.
Isn't that nice?
Yes, definitely. And it was a great load of fun, but I think...
And you are a fun person, that's why they call you
I like to think so. I like to think so, but I think maybe the entertaining part came from the fact that I probably just never shut up. There's always
Some of us are like that.
There's always something going on, and I like to think that I was drama-free, but fun still. And I think I take a little more pride in that, only because normally it's always a guy who is, the class.
And this time was a young woman?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Okay, since we're talking about ancestry, culture, background, I think it's very appropriate that you tell us a little bit about your background. Your mom, your dad, you call yourself American, Iraqi, American, all these things that we always struggling with this identity.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Tell us about it.
I'm really proud of my culture. My father came to America when he was 15 years old from Iraq, northern Iraq. He is Assyrian.
Assyrian.
Not to be confused with Syrian, but Assyrian.
Assyrian.
And the Chaldean sect.
Uh-huh.
And because there's a bit of confusion over that,
Of
and whether
course.
it's an ethnic identity or whether it is...
If you like, you can expand on that. If you like to make this thing, the difference
actually,
between
I would actually.
Assyrian and Iraqi.
Because in my culture, there's such a debate over it that it's really divided party lines of whether you're Assyrian or are you a Chaldean.
Okay, tell us exactly what's the difference.
Basically, the difference is that there were ancient Chaldeans and there were ancient Assyrians, but the Chaldeans of ancient times are not those of today. They came from the south of Mesopotamia. The reason Chaldeans have been applied, or that label has been applied in present day time to ethnic Assyrians, is because back in 1552, the Catholic Church became part of Assyrian culture. They separated from the Church of the East because Chaldeans are Catholic, Christian, aligned with the Catholic Roman Church now in 1552, and they needed to give them a different name to separate them from the Assyrian Church of the East. So it's the Assyrio-Chaldees.
So Iraqis, present Iraqis, which one are they? The Assyrians?
There are very many ethnic groups in Iraq, but the Assyrians are probably the oldest indigenous tribe.
I see.
And they come from the north again, and but throughout Iraq there are Mandaeans. I may not be pronouncing that correctly, but plenty of different groups. But yes,
okay, getting back to your passion and your background, and your mom?
My mom, actually, my dad, I always find it so interesting because here's my father coming over from Iraq when he's 15 years old, and he meets my mother, the blonde homecoming queen. And
from?
She grew up in Michigan, and you know, it's just an interesting story to me because you would think if it were a book. You know,
absolutely.
The homecoming queen marries the football player, the quarterback, and here she marries this guy from Iraq. And I always think it's funny, but I feel so blessed because I was able to grow up with not only the all-American culture, you know, having the picnics and going out, you know, 4th of July, fireworks, but the Chaldean side, my father's side, we have the parties and going in the circle dances, the baklava, and all the big
it's very
plan.
interesting that you're saying that because this show is geared to this kind of things, and often I have people who are from two different blood, from two different cultures, they come and sit here, the younger generation, and they talk about exactly as passionate as you talk about it, and they say the same thing, that we are blessed and we are so proud, and we learn so much from both cultures. You know, I have them from all walks of life, from all cultures. That's beautiful.
I definitely say in my case, it's definitely a case of East meets West, you know, or Middle East meets Midwest, you know.
Ren, I see in your bio, of course, that you have a lot of passion for history, classical history, and then your amazing interest in history of Persia. Where this affinity comes from?
Well, you know, again, my father coming from the Middle East, I think I was already predisposed to have an interest in ancient history. And I was going through Herodotus, and there was an anecdote in there about, it was just so scandalous and juicy and more outrageous than anything you've seen in any soap opera, which...
You are soap operas.
Yes. It's
and you're admitting that. That's good.
Yeah, I know. It's my guilty pleasure. You know,
most people watch it, they don't admit it. But it's good that you admit it. Okay.
But,
So you thought that the story of Xerxes was juicy? Is that what you...
Oh my gosh.
Tell us about that. Tell us about this love story.
Well, it dealt with a lot of courtly intrigue, and I don't want to spill all the beans, you know, about
because
what
they have to
exactly
buy your book and read your book, but just give us some overview.
Well, essentially, the scandal part of it, or
anything you like. Everybody likes scandal too, so we can touch on that.
As far as that, because he had many interesting things that occurred over the course of his life, but this in particular dealt with his someone very close to him betrayed him over a woman.
Oh, okay.
And
it is so popular.
Yes, and best friends and can be torn apart by love and that. There was just a big, you know, I'm trying to think of what to say.
Let me ask you another thing that just came to my mind.
Yes.
From all the kings of Persia and all the history that we have, how come you chose Xerxes?
I just found him to be so incredibly